Hello and welcome to the Mineral Rights Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Sands, and I'm joined by my co-host, Justin Williams, and we're here to help you make the most of your minerals and royalties. And in this show, we're going to do a special video on how to use the North Dakota Industrial Commission website. And this video is part of the series that we've been doing on how to use all the different state oil and gas websites to find oil and gas information and whether or not there's wells and all the things you need to know in order to manage your minerals and royalties. So Justin, North Dakota is known for the Bakken formation. We've covered that in a previous episode, which we'll link to in the show notes. But you know, this website is kind of interesting. It's a mix between some new technology and some pretty old technology.
You said it, Matt, and it's also unique in that it's subscription-based, which is pretty unique for a state oil and gas commission. But Matt, as we get into this, as we always say, you know, this information really requires you to have a foundation on how to manage your minerals. This answers the question of where to find the documents you need, and not so much how to go about managing your minerals. So if you don't know, taking a look at Matt's course for mineral management basics would be a great place to start. That'll build that foundation you need to be able to proactively manage your minerals. And then this will be an important piece of that once you have that foundation. And Matt, they can take a look at your courses at mineralrightspodcast.com/courses. And they'll have a lot of value for somebody who's very new to this.
Thanks for the plug. And, you know, that is part of the course. And so this is just a small part of that. Again, the foundational elements are all in that course. So if you need to know more about, you know, the different types of oil and gas interest, how to do a title search, all the things you need to know, be sure to check out the course. But once we've done those things, we know where our minerals are located. We have copies of our deeds and our leases, Justin. Now it's time to go and find out whether or not there is oil and gas activity on our mineral tract or nearby, and, you know, what the likelihood of future drilling might be. And that's where we go to the North Dakota Industrial Commission website. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So in order to go to the North Dakota Mineral Resources website, you go to dmr.nd.gov, and you'll see this website right here. We're interested in the oil and gas side of things, so we click on oil and gas, and it'll take us to the oil and gas division website. Now, the first thing I want to show you is the important regulatory information that you should know if you have minerals in North Dakota. And on the left side in the menu bar, there's a link for surface and mineral owner information. If you click on mineral owners, it has some helpful links like the National Association of Royalty Owners. The North Dakota and chapter is a key resource. Just a plug for NARO. Justin and I are both involved with that organization. Provides a lot of useful education and resources like a monthly newsletter, monthly webinars, and state and national in-person conventions. So highly recommend checking that out if you're not already a member. So the other things it'll have on here are things like what are the regulations around royalty payments and how frequently do they need to pay you and how do you make a claim and things like that. So the thing that is interesting about North Dakota as a side note, and again, we've talked about this and we'll link to the episode that we did on dormant minerals in the show notes. But if you have mineral rights that are non-producing and they sit dormant or are unused for a period of 20 years, basically, you have to go through and make a statement of claim periodically in order to assert your claim over those severed mineral interests. There are issues. If you don't do that, then you could lose them and they could go to the surface owner. So that's an important thing. And this is that statement of claim form you might need to download and file. So if you found recently that you've inherited minerals that are non-producing in North Dakota, definitely get with an attorney to make sure that you're doing the things to protect those rights. Now, once you've been getting royalty statements, or if you have an issue, you know, you can look at the royalty statement rules, and there's all sorts of details linked here on what the regulations are and what your rights are. And the other thing to note is we reported in one of our news episodes in 2023 that North Dakota recently passed a program where there's a private mineral ownership and rights ombudsman. And basically that's a neutral third party that's supposed to mediate disputes or issues between royalty owners and operators. And so this is a good resource as well, this royalty oversight at nd.gov. So useful information here for mineral and royalty owners. And this portion of the website is free. So if you need to just find out basic information about oil and gas, about minerals and royalties, that is free. Like you mentioned, Justin, that there is a paid program and there is a subscription-based service. Do you want to talk about what the costs are for that and what do you get for those different levels?
So yeah, Matt, the subscription service with North Dakota, it includes a few things. So the GIS viewer, which is the map-based system, has some basic information, and that's provided free. And then there is the basic subscription that you'll need for plat maps and some of the basic information that you would be looking up, like permits to drill, those plat maps to confirm your ownership. And then, Matt, the advanced subscription includes pulling in spacing orders and then the ability to download those documents. So like we were talking before the show, Matt, most mineral owners would probably need that basic subscription. However, you might or might not need that advanced subscription for those pulling and spacing orders. Just depends on your scenario and what questions you're really trying to answer at that time.
Yeah, the key difference or information about the unitization, the pooling and spacing, so you can actually pull up the orders, pull up all the filings and listen to the hearing audio, which is something maybe you would want to do one time. The basic subscription on a periodic basis, if you want to check the official record with the North Dakota Industrial Commission, you have to have that basic subscription in order to view production data. So this would be to do things like to verify that you were paid for the correct volumes on your royalty statements and those kind of things. So I will say it's a little bit unfortunate that North Dakota just doesn't offer that information for free, at least the basic subscription stuff. I guess they have their reasons as to why maybe they had to institute a subscription model. Thankfully, it's an annual subscription. It's not super expensive. And I will show you at the end of the video a way that you can actually get some of this information for free without having to pay on the subscription side of things. So from a production standpoint, on an ongoing basis to audit your royalties, I'll show you how you can do that for free. So first of all, Justin, I think the most important question in the mineral owner's mind, especially if you're looking to invest in a piece of property, this would be basic due diligence steps that you would need to perform. Or if you found out that you've recently inherited property and you want to know, are there producing wells? We need to go and do some research. And so when you go to the DMR website, you see here GIS map server. And, like we've been showing with these other state oil and gas commissions, this is really the easiest way to navigate and to find information about your wells. So for the property that we're interested in here, I just pulled one at random, and it's located in Township 151 North, Range 96 West in Section 8. There's two different ways that I'll show you how to find that tract. The way that we want to look for it just is by zooming in, first of all. And after you zoom in enough, it'll show you the townships, and you'll see the T159R94W. While we're looking for T151R96W. So I see 97, so this must be 96. And then I'm looking for 151. So that's a little bit further south. And sure enough, it's right here. So I can zoom in until I see the sections, and then I'll be able to tell, are there any producing wells? Are there permitted wells? What's going on with my minerals? All right, so I can see here Section 8, which is right in this edge, where it says edge, and that's just the field name. And the field outline or the unit outlines are in red. And you can click on the drilling and spacing units, and it'll show you more information about those and the acreage amounts. And you can see that visually. Click on the actual section, and it'll give you some statistics about the acreage, which is useful in this unit. It looks like it's probably covering sections 5 and section 8. So that's around a 1,280 acre drilling and spacing unit. And the reason I know that is because each standard section is 640 acres. And it may vary slightly based on the actual, if it's in this case, if it's 638.2, it might be a little bit below that, but that's the approximate size of that drilling spacing unit. So the first step that we want to do is we want to look at these wells and find out the well status and how much they've been producing. And it'll show you that basic subscriber or premium subscriber link. So this is the information that is available to view for free. It's the map itself, the well locations, some basic information like the API number and the field name, and again, the operator well name, those types of things. But in order to dive in and actually see the permit, to see the plat map, you'd have to have a basic subscription. So I do happen to have that, and pulled up the scout ticket data. So this is just a summary level view of the information on this particular well. And you can get information about the survey. So this is when they actually drill the well, they'll run a survey that gives you the direction and the lateral length and all that. So they measure the path of the well, and so they can get an accurate depiction on a map. And this shows you where that wellbore goes, which is useful to know. You can get the production history, which again, this is really useful for validating your check statements. And when in episode 97, we talk about how to audit your oil and gas royalty statements. And I have a free worksheet you can download. Just go to the link below or go to mineralrightspodcast.com and search for MRP 97 for the show notes for that episode. So you can do a periodic audit in terms of comparing the volumes for your wells between what was reported to the North Dakota state government and what was reported on your check statement. And those should match for oil, in this case, the month of January. It'll tell you how many barrels of oil were sold, and that's under the runs column. And if you had an interest in this Olson 4-8H1, we would expect to see for the production month of January 2024, 982 barrels showing up on our royalty statement. And this would be something you could look at and compare that in that Excel worksheet that you can download, and it'll allow you to make a comparison and find out if there's a gap. Now, when you have gas that is produced and sold, you'll see here there's a slight difference. There could be natural gas liquids involved. And so this would be the actual volume that was sold. You know, again, depending on the amount of natural gas liquids are there, you could have additional shrink that shows up and the actual natural gas liquids value. So go to episode 97 to find out more about how to audit royalty checks. But this is the type of information you would need, and it's all available through the North Dakota website. Justin, what are some of the other questions that come to mind when you want to do some research?
I think one of the most important, Matt, is that plat map. You know, you really want to see where it is that they're producing. Is that running into your minerals? You can get into a situation where maybe the surface is on your minerals, but the production is not actually coming from it. So that plat map is really important for identifying that.
That's a great point. And to find that information, we're going to look for the well file. And on this little menu up the top left, you'll see information like incident history and well file. And that's really the extent of what you can get with this basic subscription. So if you click on the well file, this will show you the scanned PDF of all the different sundry notices and, you know, all kinds of things. So for example, it shows here in 2018, they had to put this on artificial lift. They put it on a rod pump. So that's where you see the pump jack pumping up and down. That's what that means. So, you know, if we looked at the production data for 2018 in November, there might have been a slight disruption because they had to stop in order to put that pump on. And so, yeah, sure enough, if we look at the production for November of 2018, it does look like it dropped and then it came back up. So that is because the well was producing for 15 days of the month instead of the full month itself. And you can see how many days producing here in this column. It says days. So when you see a drop in production, that is a trigger to go to the State Oil and Gas Commission and pull the well file and find out what's going on. And that would be something you would have to have that basic subscription in order to get that updated well file, because this is something that is added on to as time goes on. Now, to your point, Justin, we want to find the plat map, and I'm just looking at the images here until I see that, and it's page 180 in this instance. And here was the original plat of where the wellbore was planned to go. And again, if we assume that we had mineral rights in section 8, then it does look like all of section 5 and all of section 8 are pooled together into this drilling spacing unit. And in order to calculate our decimal interest in this well, we would need to know how many acres that represents. And so we'll have to go down and look for the drilling permit itself, which you may have to do a little bit of searching through. There's a lot of information here. Again, there's well logs, there's survey information, and all sorts of things like that. Morning report. So this is as they were drilling, you know, the status each day and what they found, and, you know, the well log information. So scrolling a little bit, we found the well permit on page 167 in the well file, and the acres in the drilling spacing unit is 1,280. So that tells me that it's 2 sections. And I confirm our decimal interest in this well. When we get the division order, we would have to know how many net acres we have, how many gross acres in this drilling spacing unit, which is 1,280. and then also our lease royalty rate, and that'll tell us what that decimal interest should be. And you can find out more about that. We did an episode on how to calculate your NRI. That's your net revenue interest in 3 simple steps, and I will link to that episode in the show notes as well. So, Justin, you have the permit, you have the plat map. Okay, now we know that information. What are the other questions that come to mind?
Matt, the drilling permit is obviously one that, like you said, it's included this information, but very important. Completion notices are something that you might be looking for there. And what else, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. So, things like, notices. So, for example, this well was drilled in 2014, it looks like. But if we were just seeing that this well was permitted and hasn't started producing yet, we could look at this well file and look for these sundry notices. And for example, similar to what we talked about with Colorado, when you look and find out when they gave notice that they were starting to drill. And this shows an example of where they spud. In other words, they started drilling is what that means with a small rig. So they drill the vertical section first, and then they bring the big rig in to drill the horizontal section. And this will give you all the details about what those plans entailed. Maybe they set the surface casing and then they left the wellbore for a period of time before they brought the other one in. And that would be what this particular notice is talking about. And just goes through all these different various notifications. In this case, it talked about the flow back. So that's when they complete the well, they'll flow it back and get the sand and the water out after they hydraulically fracture it, where they pump all that stuff down to fracture the rock to allow the oil to flow. And you'll find all that information by reading these documents. So a wealth of information that's out there. Again, whether it is North Dakota, Oklahoma, Texas, your state oil and gas commission is the source for this type of information. Now, because North Dakota charges to be able to view the production data on an ongoing basis, if you just wanted to go through periodically and check production and be able to do that without having to pay $50 each year for that basic subscription, there's a service called Well Database that has a free account that you can register for, and it allows you to view information like production data and view only. So you can't download the plat maps or anything like that. So unfortunately, that's the only way that you can go and get those for the lowest price possible. We'd better get the North Dakota basic subscription in order to view the plat map and the permit. But to be able just to view production data, that is something that you can get with Well Database, and we'll link to that in the show notes as well. I use Well Database I have a paid account for my consulting practice and use it all the time. So especially for some of these states that have some limitations in the amount of data that's available or that charge you for the data and those kinds of things. So let me just go back to the section here. We're looking for section 18 in 151 North, 96 West, and there it is. And we were looking at these Olson wells, and in this example, you can view the production data for free. So this is a nice way that you could perhaps audit your royalty statements. Now, we saw with the North Dakota website, they were updated through January. We're recording this on March 4th. So the well database data may be a couple of days behind North Dakota's website, but that is something you can view here for free. The ability to view the well files or to download or forecast wells does require a paid subscription. But, it's definitely worth having a free well database subscription, especially if you have interest in multiple states, because it covers the entire country, all from one interface. So a plug for them. So we'll have a link to Well Database in the show notes as well, where you can check that out. So Justin, for me, the thing that I take away from the North Dakota website is that there's a lot of useful information here, especially around frequently asked questions and around, relatively updated map server. Unfortunately, most of the data is behind a paywall. At this point in the Williston Basin's development cycle, pretty mature. They're getting a lot of severance tax revenue. I think this would be a request. I don't know if anybody from North Dakota, the DMR, is listening, but I would strongly encourage you to get rid of that paywall for mineral and royalty owners, because it is not empowering people to be able to manage their property and to access the data that is public information that we should have access to. So I think that's the only thing that I see as a drawback from North Dakota's standpoint. I don't know what the original reasoning was for putting it behind a paywall, but again, if you want to get access to at least your production data for free, check out Well Database. Unfortunately, otherwise, you will need to get at least a basic subscription to be able to view the well file and the other information that we showed. So hopefully this information was useful.
You said it, Matt. The one thing that maybe we should mention too is what you're not going to find in this basic subscription, Matt, because the pooling and spacing orders, if that was something you were needing to take a look at, that's not included here and would require that advanced subscription that we talked about.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to apply for it, there's a PDF that you can find on the website under the basic services or premium services. There'll be a link to this actual form. And once you fill out this agreement, you email it into them and then you call with a credit card. So it's a little bit janky, not super convenient, and it does take several business days to process. So it is something that you want to get in place before you need it, because if you need something right away, it's going to take a couple of days for you to get access to it. So another thing to be aware of there.
You said it, Matt. A very interesting way for them to handle the information. And as you said, hopefully this will evolve as the basin has more activity, and we'll see this just get easier and easier.
Yeah, for sure. So that wraps up this video. Again, if you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out the links below for access to other videos that I've done on other state oil and gas commission websites. And again, be sure to check out Mineral Management Basics, which is my online course that shows you how to properly manage your minerals and royalties. And you can find that at mineralrightspodcast.com/courses. Thanks again for listening and for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Matt.